So this video is going to be explaining some mail problems, some social security problems, some problems I had trying to move into my first apartment, also some problems I had with my family. But mostly this video is to explain some social security problems. My timelines might be off by a month or two, but I'm trying to keep them pretty exact if I can, but keep that in mind. So I'm about 18 years old. I moved from a really crappy program where there's a lot of problems into this young adult program where they transition you and try to get you ready for your first apartment. It's for people 18 to 27. Now, this rooming house has rules. The rule, you got to pay kind of to be there. You got to either be working or on Social Security. If you're not working or you're not on Social Security, you have to be applying for one of the two. So I was working. I was working in there, but most of the kids in this program were on Social Security. I'm working from a work to school program getting paid. There's one other person in this rooming house. This isn't quite a program. That also is doing this. Not a lot of money, chicken scratch, but it gets the program happy I'm able to contribute. We're also doing these meetings where I meet with my DMH worker, my mother, and my father every month, as well as we do this house meetings and try to do events. They bring us to the library so we can look for jobs, we can study, things like that. They also try to show us how to balance a checkbook. They show us how to balance our budget. They show us how to, shop for food when you don't have so much money. They show us how, that we have to clean and do certain tasks. We also, each one of us has to cook a meal for everybody. So each person has to cook an entire giant meal for the group. So if I'm Monday, then I'm cooking the meal on Monday. And if Tuesday's another day, somebody else is cooking on Tuesday. And this was actually a pretty good program. It was teaching me quite a bit of skills. Now, I was making some mistakes in there too. There was another girl in this program who, you can call it a rooming house or program. This isn't quite like the programs I described before. It's more like a transitional living quarters. But I'll keep calling it a program just because it's easier. But there was another girl, same age as me, maybe 19, and she has a boyfriend that gives her weed. And maybe like once every couple of months, she would say, Zach, come with me, come with me, come for a walk with me. And I would go for a walk. She would say, you want to smoke? I would say, yeah, sure. I would smoke some marijuana with her. Sometimes I would feel a little worse. Like I said, some marijuanas help while some don't. So, and people would say, Zach, well, you don't look so good. And then other times they would say, wow, you're talkative, because if it helps, I'm able to talk better. I'm able to move a little better. But if it's one of those marijuanas that doesn't help, I would kind of shake a little bit, turn pale. I mean, I wouldn't really look too good. But they would just say, oh, what's wrong with you? They would kind of be like, oh, it must be the marijuana, yeah, whatever. That only happened like once every couple months, and that's the only drug I was doing at that point, except for all the pharmaceuticals that my mother and father wanted me to take. They continued to tell me, oh, you need to take this for the rest of your life. Don't worry about the side effects, take this for the rest of your life. Don't blame the medicine, take this for the rest of your life. Don't blame the medicine, take this for the rest of your life. Don't blame the medicine, take this for the rest of your life. Don't worry, we'll go up on it. We'll switch it. And that's pretty much what the doctor said too. Now, I didn't know that my complaints were falling on deaf ears, though. I had no idea that reporting this to the doctors and my mother wasn't good enough. I thought that reporting side effects to the doctor and reporting these type of problems with my mother, that would be good enough. It wasn't, because I didn't realize that I had some issue with my mother. All the way to 19, I didn't know what was really going on. All I knew is if I felt some type of way, like sick, vomiting in the morning, splitting headache, depression, things like that, I should pass it on. And I did. I passed it on to my mother and the doctors. But instead of fixing the issue, they would just load on more medications and I would get worse. So I'm still popping all these meds that they're telling me to pop. The program, all these kids in the program are worried about me at night. They say, you don't look good at all. You don't look good at all. Oh my God, you should tell somebody. So I do. I tell the doctor, and they don't seem to be really worried about this. My mother, for years, hasn't been worried about this. So keep that in mind as we go on, that I'm on these medications. So as I'm working and doing my thing, and I'm about to graduate high school, I'm very, very close to graduation. I'm also working to a work to school program. But a lot of people see me with this shaking. They see me in bad condition. They see me taking all these pills and looking real crappy. And they say, hey, Zach, you should apply for Social Security. You don't look so good. Yeah, are you on it? I go, no, 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 I'm not on it or anything. Okay, so after I hear this from a lot of people, Zach, you don't look so good, you should apply for Social Security. You should talk to your parents about that. So I think about that for about 6 months, and more people talk to me about it. And we have a meeting, my DMH worker, my mother, my father, and me. Now remember, this program requires people to give up their Social Security to the program for payment, and then they teach you how to use your Social Security in your first apartment to pay your bills. Also, a lot of these people come in at 18 years old and they have to reapply for Social Security while they're living there. So like for me, if you turn 19 and you need to reapply, they'll help you with that. They'll do the whole process. They'll get you somebody to sit down at a desk. They'll fill out the paperwork with you. They'll ask you many questions about what's really wrong with you. They'll even drive you to the doctor, and they'll give you a mailing address. They'll give you a phone, a mailing address, a place to live, and a person that can work with you filling out these paperwork properly. They also have an attorney that helps these young adults as well. So they're very used to helping people reapply for their Social Security. They're also very used to helping people with their Social Security. They're also very good at transitioning you into your first apartment with your Social Security. But at this time, I'm not on Social Security, or I don't know I'm on it, or I have no idea. But I'm being told I probably should look into it. So I decide I'm going to look into it. So during one of these meetings, we get together. There's my DMH worker, there's me, there's my father, there's my mother. My mother wasn't doing that great at this time either. She was starting to lose it. I'm the only one that seems to notice this, though. There's other people that are getting hints, but I'm probably the only one that fully knows this. We sit in the meeting, and I ask a very simple question. How would I get Social Security? And my DMH worker chimes in first, and he goes, oh, I can help you with that. All we have to do is do some paperwork. We'll go see a doctor. We'll go over some of your disabilities. He'll say, yeah, that sounds like something we definitely could do with you, Zach. I kind of have a smile in my head. I go, oh, good. Somebody's going to help me. Well, all of a sudden, my father whispers, and my mother and father whisper in each other's ear. And then they come out with, well, he's already on Social Security. At this point, I get aggravated, mad, because they've kept now a secret from me from the years, as well as I realize this is going to screw up my living situation. Absolutely. He's going to mess up, because if my DMH worker doesn't know about it, that means he's keeping it a secret. So I leave to go have a cigarette. I say, oh, this is another secret. This is another shit that's going to come back on me. Here's another bullshit mistake that they're making. Here's another mess that my parents making for me, and now I'm going to have to clean it all up again. So tired of cleaning up my parents' messes. And then they send me away and try to put the blame on me. They try to say, oh, it's somehow his fault. So I leave, I go for a cigarette. It doesn't help my nerves at all. It makes me worse. I go back in, and then my DMH worker looks me straight in the eye, right as I look at my mother and father, and they look upset, they look a little off color, they look like they're a little scared inside, a little worried. At this point, my DMH worker tells me, what your parents did was wrong. They have to turn that over to you at 18. We have some problems here, and I have paperwork that you can sign, and we can go after them to get that money back. Now, I don't want to go after anybody. I just want my health, and I want to move on with my own life. I need a housing. I need an apartment. I want a family, and that's it. Family, house, apartment, some roof over my head. That's all. And I also want my health. But at this time, I don't know what's going on with my health. I just know I'm really not feeling good. There's a lot of problems with my nervous system. I know that this feeling in my back, I don't know how to describe it. I know that there's just a lot going on with my health, and I don't understand at this time what's causing all this craziness. I mean, crazy feeling, not crazy behaviors, even though there are some of those. I'm talking about like depression, shakes, not being able to move your body properly, stuff like that. So at this point, I have a choice to make. I can either go after my father and mother and get my money back, or I can be a good son, protect my father, protect my mother, and hope that they're a good parent back to me for it. That maybe they'll do the help that I need. Maybe they'll help me like they should, instead of just saying that they're going to help and then hurting me. Because a lot of times that's what they would do. They say, we're helping you, as they hurt me. It's like if somebody took your foot and they started sawing off your foot, even though there's nothing wrong with it, and then the crazy person goes, I'm helping you, you don't need this foot, and they keep on sawing. That's kind of the analogy that I felt like growing up. These people were hurting me, and then they were saying they were helping me. It was pretty crazy. But anyways, I'm really going to help them in this situation. So I look my DMH worker in the eye, and I tell him, I can't do that. I can't bring my father to court. I can't charge him. I don't want to do that. So instead, I make a deal with my father. I look him straight in the eye, and I say, Dad, here's the deal. I am not going to go after you with this stuff. But what I am going to ask of you is that you help me with my Social Security. You make sure that I keep it. Seeing as you made this mess, you're going to make sure that I keep my Social Security. Seeing as the home I'm in, this place in Lawrence, that's basically all they do. They help people get Social Security and move into their first apartment. That's all I'm wanting to do. I want to keep my Social Security, get healthy, and move into an apartment. So I make this deal. He shakes my hand. He looks me straight in the eye. And he says, yep, I can do that. I can make sure you keep your Social Security. Now, I had no idea how much of a mess he made of my Social Security. I had no idea what they put down on paper. This is the first I'm hearing of it. Remember that. I have never heard that I was on Social Security in my life until this day. And I'm making a deal, asking my father to make sure that it continues then. Seeing as I can no longer apply for it for my actual illnesses, I can no longer handle it on my own like I was going to with my DMH worker, like the rest of these kids that come in. They just apply for it. They have help filling out the paperwork. They see the doctors for their actual health issues. But instead, we're going along with my mother's Social Security case, what they started to say. Whatever they said on paper is what I'm going to need help figuring out. And he agrees. He agrees to help me keep my Social Security and make sure that I keep it, instead of me charging him and collecting that money, what I could have collected. Now keep in mind that the program I'm staying in requires that you give your Social Security to them, as well as that you report it to them. DMH also requires you to report this, as well as Social Security also requires a report that I'm working, which I was working, and they didn't have a report of that either. Now, I have to leave this program because of what my father did. He thinks they're keeping it some secret from me, but people are talking to me about it, how because of the Social Security issue, I can no longer stay in my room, and I can no longer go on with my plan. The plan we had is I was supposed to move into my first apartment. I was supposed to stay there, learn the skills that I needed to become an adult, and then I was supposed to either find a job or get Social Security and use that to pay the bills. But now my father has forgotten, we'll say, even though really it's a lie, he forgot to tell anybody about this, including me, as well as now there's only like a month or two to figure out my Social Security case, fill out the paperwork, get it in, and for me to learn everything that they said about me and learn what my disabilities are. Now, here's the funny part. They don't tell me anything about my disabilities. They leave me in the dark. They don't tell me what's wrong with me. They don't tell me any of it. And that's because what they were saying was lies. They were lying to Social Security for money. There is stuff really wrong with me, but it's not this fantasy that they made up. So I get thrown out of this program because of my father. He lied to them. There's a lot of mistakes that he can't undo. He owes about a year's worth of money in Social Security to this program, as well as I was collecting like food stamp benefits, and I was going to work and it wasn't being reported. So there's a lot of problems. So the program can no longer keep me. Now I know this. But my family, my father and my mother come up, they drive up and say, we want you to come home to take care of Mom. Now that's not really why they did it. But I really did want to take care of my mother. I mean, I'm a caregiver. That's what I do. So instead of arguing with them, explaining to them that I know what they did, I know why I have to leave, I understand why I'm leaving. It's because of something you did. Yeah. Once again, you're not taking responsibility for your actions. I smoked weed in the program. I did that. You lied and withheld money from them, as well as you lied to my DMH worker, you left out information, and you lied and manipulated me. But I didn't have that talk with them. Instead, I made an agreement that as long as they help me keep it and we move forward, then I would not press charges, I would not sign the paperwork, I would not ask for that money. And then they want me to move in with them to take care of my mother. Even though really that's not why. That had nothing, that they would have been much more happy to stay by themselves, vacationing, drinking at night with nobody around, going out to eat a lot. That's what they wanted. They didn't want me around. But now they're in trouble. They did something they weren't supposed to do, and now they have to actually do something about it. And the easiest way is to lie to me and then bring me home. And I'm going along with this fairy tale. I already know they're bullshitting me, but I'm going to go along with their bullshit. I don't like arguing, because when I try to point out what they're doing to me, they just change the subject and make it a lot worse. They try to make it a problem with me. Oh, it's your fault. Well, how is it my fault that you didn't pay the program the Social Security money that they were supposed to receive every month? And now I don't have the skills to reapply for Social Security, and I don't have the skills to try to handle any money. And that's what they're supposed to be teaching me there. They're supposed to be teaching me how to apply for Social Security, how to reapply for Social Security, what my disabilities really are. They're supposed to be bringing me to doctors, so that way the doctors can fully understand me and what my disabilities are, and then also show me the skills I need to be an adult. But that's not happening because you lied. You manipulated, and you kept money when you weren't supposed to. That's called greed. Selfish behaviors. It's also manipulation. But I ignore all, I forgive them for that, and I move home. When I move home, they start, they're still acting like they are. My mother's still drinking and acting very crazy. My father still is normal, he's doing his own thing, quiet in the corner. He's pretty good at that. He was very normal, at not getting involved. He would just do his own thing, no matter what me and my mother were doing. If we were fist fighting in the back room, he'd probably go outside to mow the lawn. Oh, Zach and my mother are Zach and my wife are fist fighting. Oh, okay, time to do the lawn. That's kind of was his attitude there. So I move home, and it's stressful on me. And I try to figure out what my disabilities are, but they're leaving me in the dark. They're not telling me what's wrong with me. I'm asking, what's wrong with me? Why am I collecting this? What's wrong with me? Why am I collecting this? And I'm not getting any clear answers. They're just kind of saying, oh, you're crazy, it's a mental health disorder. Well, I think you got to put more than that on paper. So then I try to fill out the Social Security paperwork myself, but the DMH worker says, this doesn't match, this is no good, because I'm trying to put down the truth. I'm not trying to exaggerate, I'm not trying to lie, I'm trying to put down all I know to be the truth, and that's not enough. and I have no clue what this neurological condition is at the time. So they fill out the paperwork and send it in without even showing it to me. They don't even show me what's on the paper. They just send it right in. Not only that, we're running out of time now. They told me so late that I got, basically when the letter came in the mail that I had to reapply and my Social Security would be ending was about the same exact time I found out about it. So when it ended, that's when I found out about it. It was only about 2 months between those dates. The date it ended and the date I found out about it was like 2 months difference. Now, I don't have a mailing address or phone after this process. I end up moving in with my brother because things are not good. I'm not liking what's going on with them. They're trying to make up a whole case about me. I'm taking all these crazy pills and they're causing a lot of damage with me. These pills are doing weird and unusual things to my body, as well as there was already weird and unusual things done to me before. So I have all this damage that has not been handled. I have not properly seen any doctors. I've been kept in the dark and lied to quite a bit. And now I'm moving from Chelmsford to Lowell. I'm moving once again. Now, luckily, my brother allows me to use his phone and his mailing address. The court date comes for me to go to Social Security. Now, I have no idea what they put down on paper, what my disabilities are. I have no idea what my disabilities are. Now I do, as at 31 I do, but back at 19 I still have no idea. I just know it's a lot of pills and something mental. That's all I've been told over and over and over and over. Okay, I wait patiently for the court date. I get ready in the morning. My brother's going to drive me that day. We're getting in the truck. We're leaving the house, and the phone goes off. I grab the phone. I answer. It's the attorney that my father set up for me. Now, if I was in the program and stayed there, I would have had an attorney, and he would have stayed with me through the case. But this is an attorney my father's part of. Keep in mind, whenever my parents got involved in these things, somehow they went wrong. And this is out of my hands. I have nothing to do with this at this point. This is all my father, and he had an agreement. He made a promise and an agreement. He has his half of the deal to keep. I kept my end of the bargain. Now it's time for him to keep his end of the bargain. I didn't press charges when you did that. And you said that you would do everything in your power to make sure that that I could keep the Social Security. That way I could have a decent life and move on with my life. But guess what? The lawyer my father hired drops out. He calls me like 1 to 2 hours, actually 1 hour before we're supposed to show up at the court house, and he says he's dropping out. I ask him, oh, why are you dropping out? It's 1 hour before court. I can't find an attorney in 1 hour. How am I going to find an attorney in 1 hour? You know what my lawyer tells me, my Social Security lawyer? He says, talk to your father. Now keep in mind, this is the same Social Security attorney that told me to talk to my father when my mother passed away. Now I'm going to go into that in a minute. That's another Social Security problem. But this attorney also told me to ask my father about the money my mother left me that's connected to her Social Security and talk to my father about that. But anyways, let's get back to the Social Security case at hand. So I have a court date in 1 hour for my Social Security. I have no idea really what my disabilities are. And now the attorney's dropping out at me, not coming, not going to be there, and he's telling me to call my father for a new attorney. So I ask him, well, what do I do for now? He says, you have two choices: show up by yourself or ask for a continuance. Well, I can't show up by myself. I have no idea what's wrong with me. I have no idea at this point. Now I do at 31, but at 19 I had no idea. I knew there was a bunch of stuff wrong. I knew there was some serious damage to my body. I knew all these pills were doing something, but I didn't know how to unravel all this mess. So what do? I ask for a continuance. Then I try to contact my father to figure out what he did, why the lawyer dropped out, and how to get a new lawyer. But at this point, he's acting very stuck up. He's not trying to get me a new attorney, and he's not telling me why the attorney dropped out in the first place. So I end up just going on the street. I end up moving back home with them. My mother passes away. By the way, when she passes away, this is shortly after the Social Security stuff, or around the same time. So I'm getting stressed out by all this, as well as now my mother, who did crazy stuff to me, is now passing away, so I'll never get to know what she did to me. And I've always known that she was doing something over and over to me. I knew that these drugs had something to do with it, but they're telling me to take these drugs for the rest of my life. But yet there's other drugs being involved at childhood, and there's so much unraveled. And you, as a child, you don't quite understand all this. At 19, I knew more, but I had so much on my plate to try to unravel. My mother passes away, and the same attorney tells me I should talk to my father about my mother's passing and her Social Security. So I do that, and once again, he lies to me and tells me he knows nothing. Oh, I don't know anything about that. I know he knows something. Maybe he doesn't know exactly what he's talking about, but he knows quite a bit about when people pass away and how to collect their benefits and what he's talking about with Social Security, as well as the attorney seemed to make it clear that you do know something about it. And I also gave him another chance to speak up when I was about, 23. After I already knew that there was more, I asked him to be honest with me, and he couldn't. My father just couldn't be honest with me. So at this point, I've now have no way to get my Social Security. My mother's now passed away. I now have the other Social Security with her Social Security I'm wondering about. And my dad is deciding to get remarried and sell the house I'm living in. So we haven't figured out my living standards. He screwed up my plan with this program. He screwed up Social Security. And now he expects me to still go where? He's selling a damn house. No, he's gonna throw me out someplace again, of course. I know what he's going to do. He's gonna do what he did every other time. He's gonna worry about himself, and then I'm gonna suffer someplace. I know that. I mean, time. If you want to know what's gonna happen in the future, then learn from the past. You can't know what to do in the future if you don't know what happened in the past. So I know what's going to happen to me. Now I make a bad decision. I start using drugs. Now, of course, I used some drugs before, but there's periods where I just kind of wanted to figure out what was wrong with me. So I would stop them. I would spend 6 months to a year doing nothing. Then I would still feel worse, or the pills would make me worse, or some of them would make me better, and I would try to figure out what's going on there. And there was a lot of cough medicine involved as well, because that's about the only medicine I found that could calm my nerves, calm the back, but it also had a lot of bad side effects. So yeah, I'm using drugs, alcohol, things like that. And my dad gets remarried. He's selling the house. He marries my mother's best friend. She has no idea what she's walking into. My father has not disclosed any of this stuff to her. And she is still probably she's been told probably this fantasy that I'm some evil, crazy person or something. I don't know what this fantasy is. I was never told what my disabilities are or what they were saying about me. I knew it was bad stuff. Whenever I overheard the conversations, it was lies and manipulations and horrible stuff for attention. Oh, look how bad my son is, and look how hard I work. Give me good attention. Tell me how good I am as a mother. Stuff like that. So now this random other person's coming in to the middle of this. But I accept her with my full heart. Some of the other family tells me, don't you think it's wrong? Don't you think this is wrong? I said, no, not really. I mean, and if anybody else walked into this mess, it would be even harder. No, this is probably good for the family. So I back this marriage, as well as they're selling the house under my feet, and I continue to ask, what's your plan for me? What's your plan for me? How am I going to get this Social Security? What's wrong with me? What's the plan for me? What's wrong with me? And I'm getting no answers. At this point, I try a combo of some new meds. I find a bunch of medications in the closet. By the way, I shouldn't be looking in anybody's closet, but I already knew that these people, my mother, was going through all my medications and taking them. So I kind of had this entitlement feeling, like, okay, if there's a medication without somebody's name on it that doesn't live here and it's illegal, I can do whatever I want with it. Now, that was wrong. What my father did was wrong, what my mother did was wrong, and what I was doing was wrong. Keep that in mind. I know what I did was wrong. I think my father's still in denial, though, about all this. So at this point, I take a combo of meds. Now, the funny part is I feel better at first, and that was the benzodiazepam. There was Xanax in there. I actually get a little boost of better, but then I lose the ability to walk again. I kind of go numb a little bit. I took too much of the opiates. I didn't OD or anything like that. I was just messed up. I mean, I was like that for over an hour before I got called in the room, and I tried to get into the other room. When I got into the other room, they wanted me to stand up. I fell down. I stand up and fall down. Then I try to stand. They call an ambulance, and I obviously black out. I walked into the hospital, apparently. Now, this is like 2 hours, so it's not an overdose. It's more like I'm too messed up. I'm way, way messed up. I won't die from something like that, and it didn't cause any permanent damage to me. But it was no good for my health, I'm sure. And keep in mind that I was already suffering for like 13 years prior. I had that lightning feeling for 13 years in my back. I was bumping into stuff. They were diagnosing me with coordination issues. So I had all these problems already that I was trying to treat myself because nobody else was. And that was a big, big mistake. Nobody should have to treat themselves. I should have been able to get treatment and help a long time before I hit this point. And you remember, this new person that just got married, she knows none of the past. She has no idea what happened from my age 5 to 19. All she sees is 19. She also doesn't know what my father did just prior to me moving in. She has no idea how he messed up my program, no idea the deal he made and the promise he made, no idea about all this. So at this point, they throw me out. They throw me out to the street and drop me off at the shelter. Now, the shelter, I get stabbed by a needle, people start robbing me, I have problems with the cold, I catch scabies, a bunch of problems. As well as when I try to get the mail there and get a phone and all that, it's not working. It's not working at all. So I need to find an address so I can go and figure out Social Security. Now, I eventually do figure this out, but I have a problem. The address I'm using, the mailbox is in the realtor office. And what I don't know is they're keeping my mail. I'm having the Social Security mail sent there, but they kept it for months and months and months to use it for this guy's eviction. The guy I was visiting, and I used to stay with once in a while because I used to do rounds and stay with people, he let me use his address. What I didn't know is that his realtor office was holding my mail illegally to try to evict him. And so I was also stopping by Social Security every month. I also went to see a Social Security doctor. But the Social Security doctor, I didn't even know what to tell him at this point. Nobody's given me any information. Nobody's told me what's wrong with me. All they've told me is take a bunch of pills all the time. That's it. They gave me a list of pills and told me to take these all the time. And I do that and I feel worse. And I bring these up to the doctors and they have no idea because my records are crazy. They go back through multiple different states, and the statements of my mother just are all over the place. So at this point, what do? I keep going to the Social Security office and asking them if I have a court date. Now, this is years after. This is like a couple years, like 2 years after I got thrown out of my father's house. At this point, I go in 1 week. They tell me, nope, you have no news, no court date, nothing. Okay. I wait a week or two longer and I go back again. They tell me it passed. I said, it passed? I was just here. When did it pass? Oh, it passed a month ago. A month ago? I've made 2 trips here since then. Why has nobody told me? Well, you should have got a letter in the mail and a phone call. I said, well, I don't have a phone because I have nowhere to live. I said, the mailing address is a friend's and I've checked. There's no mail for me there. None. And they close my case. I find out like 6 months later, they evict this guy. Now, I'm not living with him. I'm just staying there once in a while. I have like 5 different people. I do their dishes. I listen to them. I make sure they took their meds. I bring them to the doctor. stuff like that. And then they sometimes ask me if I want to stay over. They also let me use their address for mail or something. Well, I find out that they brought my mail. I still have a copy somewhere around here. They brought my Social Security letter to the court system as proof that this guy had somebody staying with him. They also brought mail from this other African American that never went there. He just needed to register his name. That's way before I met this guy. That guy was using it for like 7 years or something before I came. So they bring my mail and this other guy's mail to the courthouse to evict this man. And I find this out way after my case was cased. My case was closed. So what am I supposed to do about all this? I'm supposed to go, get an apartment, get healthy, and get better. So then I make a plan. No. I'm just going to work myself to death. That's it. It doesn't matter what's wrong with me. I'll just work myself to death. And then when I finally get an apartment, I can try this again. So that's what I do. I moved to New Hampshire. I work on getting sober. Right when I moved to New Hampshire, I've been almost completely sober the whole time. I've had one relapse for 6 months or so, maybe 8 or 9 at max. And that was with opiates during an infection that was spreading crazy, and I had a choice to make. I either could keep my job or I could keep my sobriety. Not both. There was no way I could keep both. So I chose to keep my job, pay the bills, and keep going. And it worked. I still have the same apartment. I'm still sober today. And when I moved up here, I got sober and stayed sober as well. Yeah, I smoked weed once in a while. And for the first couple years, I would, like, if I had to go to work and my body didn't want to move, I would sip on a beer in the shower. I would take a warm shower. I would put it on my back, right where my neck and spine is. Put the warm water on there. Sometimes I would have to sit in a shower chair and hold on to a pole to get up and down that I installed for the old man mainly. But sometimes I would use it too. And then I would just sip on the beer as the water went on my back. And when the beer was empty, the shower's over. One 12-ounce can. Not the big giant cans, they're 12-ounce cans. And they're just Blue Ribbon. Pabst Blue Ribbon, like 5.6% alcohol. One can. Then I would get out of the shower. I would do mouthwash. I would do my face, dry off, and then I would go out to make some money. Every day. That was my process if I couldn't move. If I was moving okay, if things were going okay, or if I could push through the pain, then I would just do that. Just push through the pain like I do now. For the last 4 years, I just pushed through the pain. And as far as the shower beers go, that was at first maybe once a week, something like that. And then after the first year, it became like a holiday thing, or when I had stressful people over. And then I think the last real stressful person I had over and had a drink was a cookout that I invited my family to. I was trying to really like make a connection, so maybe they would actually call and listen. But I gotta go with the history here. They never once really gave a fuck about my health. So why would they now? Why would they answer my calls and try to help me now? They wouldn't. They're not going to settle Social Security. They're not going to clean up their messes. They're just want me to find a hole to die in. That's their plan. Let Zach find a hole to die in. That's their plan, and it always was their plan. From age 7, their plan was to load me up with meds, make me look crazy, try to get me on Social Security, and then throw me into a Social Security mess. And then they never have to deal with me again. That was, I think, their plan. Now, I can't prove that, but what I can prove is that these things happened at the program in front of the DMH worker. I can prove that all that happened. Everything in this story happened. The only part that I'm not quite sure of is what my dad's plan was for me, why he did it. I'll never know quite why they did these things, but these things did happen. There's a lot of proof out there. There's witnesses to it. There was people present for it. Why did these things happen to me? Because people are greedy, selfish, and they don't care about one another. That's why. My health and my safety was never a concern of my mother. And my father, as long as he can stay away from me, he has no concern either. And when you listen to all this, you can kind of see why Social Security might be a little difficult for me to get now if I lose a leg or a car accident. If a car hits me and I lose my arm, it's going to, there's a lot that has to be done before I can collect, because this mess has to be cleaned up first. And I missed out on a good opportunity at 19 too, because of somebody else's mistake once again. And nobody's ever said, "Oh, well, we'll fix this. We didn't keep our end of the bargain, so we're going to pay what the courts were going to make us pay." Nothing like that. They don't care about that. And I don't really care about money. I care about my health. I need money to get healthy, but I want to earn my own money. So this is a big problem. I'm not greedy. To me, money is the root of all evil, and it really makes greed. But I'm going to need it for my health, so that's why I've been working so hard. I'm going to need it to pay my rent. And I'm going back to work as soon as this GI is a little better. I will have seizures, I will fall, I will shake. Things will happen to me this winter. But I'm used to that by now. It hurts. It's going to hurt me. I could die, but hey, this is the life that I was given. This is what people did to me. This is what I'll have to deal with for the rest of my life. And right now I'm working on cleaning up my parents' messes, fixing my health, keeping my job, keeping my apartment, and then moving into South Carolina in a new apartment. After that, hopefully, when I get too sick to live and I know that it's time for me to die a slow and horrible death, that's when I'll go to South America. There's plenty of animals and people to kill me much quicker down there. If I have no quality of life left, I might as well go someplace where they can speed things up. I can be with God. I can be with nature. And they have plenty of legal magic mushrooms down there too. So if I'm dying and I want to be close to God, that's a good time to do it. I mean, I really don't want the magic mushrooms right now. It's more of a therapy thing. And keep in mind, magic mushrooms are not a fun thing. All these traumatic pasts flood through you. You'll have to live your traumatic past. You'll have to conquer your fears, and you'll have to admit to your mistakes if you take those. It's not a fun recreational drug. It's something that makes you look into yourself. It makes you process what you've done and what people have done to you. And so I don't need that anymore. I've unlocked the truth. I've processed my emotions. I've processed my abuse. So I don't need any drugs. What I need is to clean up this mess with Social Security. I need to get healthy. And I need to continue working and staying on the right track. And that's what I'm going to do. But I think people should know this is the truth. This is what really happened. This is what was really going on. I doubt anybody is talking about this stuff at all. I bet that it was just some big secret that he wanted to keep.